Hey, all, EC here, and Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild killed Nintendo. That's it, that's the video. Anyway, subscribe. Anyway, I'm joking. Right, let's go over this in this video. So, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild came out in 2017. It was a huge hit for Nintendo. Originally, it was planned for a Wii U release. It obviously came out on the Wii U and the Switch. It was a launch title for the Switch, and it sold really well. It's one of the best-selling games on the console. But I think the influence of Breath of the Wild has sort of been leaked over into other franchises and other games, because but I don't know, Breath of the Wild's main selling point was this huge open world that you could explore, and you could go through different levels and, explore, different creatures and buildings and, lands and whatever. And that was fun. That was great for that sort of game. Breath of the Wild and Zelda. Zelda is supposed to be a huge adventure. It's supposed to be a huge open world sort of story. It's supposed to be a legend. You're supposed to be all the stuff to explore and whatnot. And that works fine for Zelda games. But then they started trying to put open worlds in other games. Let's be real, Mario Kart World did not need the open world. Because when you actually play Mario Kart World, the open world it feels tacked on. Like, all you really got to do is drive through the traffic. Like, there's no real reason for you to, want to do it. And when there was an exploit, people were using an exploit to actually, skip that part of the driving mechanic and just play in the racetracks. Because obviously, surprisingly, people who bought a racing game to race. People didn't buy the racing game to drive from point A to point B. They bought the racing game to race on the racetracks. And obviously Nintendo patched that. They patched it because it wasn't the way they wanted you to play the game. But things with Mario Kart World, the open world just didn't feel necessary. And when you even play the open world, there's such little stuff to do. There's a few time trials scattered around the map, and that's it. But there's no way of you keeping track of what you've already done with those time trials, so that just kind of sucks. And also, the news that Metroid Prime 4 is getting an open world, or at least having an open world area, to me, it's kind of hard to really think. Because Metroid Prime has always been a linear sort of experience. There has been some exploration sort of aspects to it, but the idea of there being an open world for Metroid Prime, on paper it sounds good. But I'm worried, because obviously we saw how they did it with Mario Kart World. And I do think Nintendo will probably, because it's a Switch 1 and Switch 2 game, I reckon they'll sort of kneecap the game a little bit. And this exploration mode, this mode where you'll be, exploring for Metroid Prime. I think it's gonna be barren, there's not gonna be much content, and there's just gonna be items scattered around, you gotta pick up back in the old days where you'd have in these sort of segments, there'd be items scattered around. We just collect 5 of them and then we'd move on. But I don't think it's going to be an enjoyable experience. I feel like you're just going to be walking around aimlessly and waiting for enemies to appear randomly. And obviously, when you find an enemy, you're going the right way. And realistically, it's not Breath of the Wild's fault. I will say that Breath of the Wild itself is not the problem here. It's the mentality that people want open world games. People want open world games for everything. Everything has to be open world. Because realistically, look at Halo Infinite. That has an open world, and arguably, people are saying it's one of the best Halo games in years. I actually think Halo Infinite is not actually that good. It's not actually that good because, Halo hasn't been good since Halo Reach was the last good Halo game. Maybe Halo Wars 2 if you count Halo Wars. But, the idea of injecting open worlds into games that never really had open worlds, it doesn't really work for a lot of franchises. And a lot of franchises don't need that because of the genre they're in and the sort of fan base they have. Mario Kart especially is an example where we didn't need the open world. The open world of Mario Kart world was just not necessary because obviously, who wants to drive through the traffic to get to the next course? The whole appeal of Mario Kart is to get in a racetrack, race the game and bully your friends by throwing stuff at them while you're playing the game. Picking up power-ups, blue shelling someone and banana peeling them and all that stuff. That's the appeal of Mario Kart. Metroid, they could make an open world work or an open world segment work, but then you've got to question how much content they're actually going to put in those levels to make it worthwhile to actually explore the open world areas. Because otherwise, if it's just a big giant area and you're walking around aimlessly for 30 minutes and then you finally find out what you're supposed to do, I mean, where's the fun in that? Where's the fun in that for a game? And I think the idea that games are so grindy now and games are just so boring now. It feels like these companies don't care. And it's especially a shame that Nintendo's doing this, because Nintendo was like the bastion of quality games for like years. They always, listen to fans during the Wii U era. Fans told them what they wanted, and they're like, okay, cool, we'll give you that, because obviously that they needed the fans then. Because the Switch was so successful, I feel like the Switch, and to a lesser extent Breath of the Wild's success, is the reason that Nintendo has obviously started pushing more. Because obviously, yes, open world games work for Zelda. Zelda having an open area and a more expansive world does work. It is part of the idea of what the genre of Zelda is. Zelda being an adventure game and being based on legends and stuff, it works. Mario Kart World, Metroid Prime 4, probably doesn't work as well for Metroid Prime 4, and Mario Kart World just didn't really work. So hopefully Nintendo will just like calm down the open worlds, because I get what they're trying to do. I get they're trying to, give people more excitement, more reason to come back, more reason to keep playing their game. But in reality, it just feels like they're just making these grindy like levels that have like nothing in them for people to explore for like half an hour, 20 minutes, whatever they're doing. And then when they're done, they finally progress through the game. And by the time they progress through the game, they're bored, because, it's not fun. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think about this in the comments down below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? I know I'm going to get a lot of hate on this video. I don't care. Anyway, if you're new, if you subscribe, I've been EC, and I'm signing out. Peace.